Lewis Carroll uses parody to make fun of overly pedantic religious leaders. And the Bible uses parody to make fun of overly pedantic religious leaders. We'll begin with overly moralistic education in Victorian England and see how Alice in Wonderland makes fun of it. Then we'll look at self-righteous interpretations of the Bible and we'll see how Job makes fun of that. Let's time travel back to 1700s England. Since no one thought of Sesame Street yet, the church was trying to write fun songs to teach kids moral lessons. But those stuffy adults don't know how us kids have fun. Let's take Isaac Watts. He's an incredibly gifted hymn writer. He wrote "Joy to the World," "When I Survey the Wondrous Cross." The dude clearly knows how to write hymns. He's also a smart, independent thinker. He's a philosopher of logic and a religious nonconformist. But don't ask this guy to run a kid's puppet show. His most famous kid's song has a super catchy title, "Against Idleness and Mischief." Yeah, that song's not making it onto Sesame Street anytime soon. Can you imagine Kermit the Frog bringing this up?
Look, Piggy, I've got a really fun new song here. It's called, Against Idleness and Mischief.
Look, Frog! Here's how it goes. Basically, it talks about a hardworking bee that gets to eat delicious honey. Check out the third verse. "In works of labor or of skill, I would be busy too. For Satan finds some mischief still for idle hands to do."
If you kids aren't lazy, you can get some great rewards like the busy little bee. But if you're lazy, Satan's gonna find some nasty fun for your hands to do, and you don't want that, do ya?
Now fast forward exactly 150 years later. It's 1865, and the raging debate in England is about compulsory state education. Everyone is talking about how we educate our kids, and everyone is trying to turn everything into a moral lesson. Up to that point, most schools were run by the church. And unfortunately, education had become equated with boring, straight-laced teachers that hate rock and roll. Totally different than it is today when kids all think their teachers are cool and hip. In 1865, there was a man who thought, we gotta make fun of these teachers. That brave man was named Lewis Carroll, and he wrote a book called Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, a book that makes fun of the education system more than a rebellious 80s teen movie. I should preface this by saying that Lewis Carroll was not anti-education. He himself was an Oxford lecturer, a professor of logic, and his students actually said he was a little boring. But maybe that self-awareness is why he loved making fun of boring teachers so much. And maybe that's why he was so good at it. In his book, Alice goes tumbling down a rabbit hole, and nothing makes sense anymore. And all these crazy characters in Wonderland keep trying to find a moral lesson in all this for young Alice. But they end up looking a little silly. In all the chaos, Alice starts trying to reassure herself by reciting the most popular song from her education, which is, of course, Against Idleness and Mischief. Still top of the charts after 150 years. But here's how Alice says it. "How doth the little crocodile improve his shining tail and pour the waters of the Nile on every golden scale? How cheerfully he seems to grin, how neatly he spreads his claws, and welcomes little fishes in with gently smiling jaws." In the original poem, Isaac Watts tells kids that hard work pays off. If they work hard, they can eat honey like the busy bee. Alice's version is actually the same lesson, but her role model for hard work is a predatory crocodile that devours his prey. The lesson is the same. Kids should work hard. But Carroll's parody points out that sometimes hard work can have a sinister motive. We gotta get back to the time machine because we haven't even talked about the Bible yet. Let's go back to ancient Israel. Scholar Catherine Dell wrote a book called The Book of Job as Skeptical Literature. She points out that what we consider wisdom literature in the Bible has a lot of skepticism built into it. Just as Lewis Carroll is an educator who makes fun of boring educators, the Book of Job was written by a wise sage who makes fun of self-important sages. The Book of Proverbs is an example of Hebrew wisdom literature. It gives practical advice, kind of like a self-help book today. Now, it's not supposed to be a one-size-fits-all blanketly applied to every unique situation, and let me explain. Tony Robbins says that if you focus on gratitude, your life will be healthier and wealthier. Good advice. Now imagine someone focusing on gratitude, but he catches COVID and gets a PhD in humanities.
Should he sue Tony Robbins? No, it's just general advice. It's not supposed to be a one-size-fits-all to every unique situation. Proverbs says, a gentle word turns away wrath. Very true. I see this happen all the time. But we all know rageaholics who stay mad no matter how gentle your words are. Does that mean Proverbs is wrong? No. It's not supposed to be read so strictly. Let's take another one. Be assured, an evil person will not go unpunished, but the offspring of the righteous will be delivered. In the book of Job, all his children died. Is that punishment because he's not righteous? No, he's the most righteous person on the planet. Proverbs isn't trying to give a strict promise for every unique situation. Job's friends are like the characters in Wonderland. They're trying so hard to find a moral lesson in all this chaos that they apply proverbs like this a little too strictly. Now, they're genuine friends. They really want to help him out. His kids are dead, so he must be evil. We can help him by telling him to stop being evil. But the Bible isn't supposed to be read like this. And sometimes the Bible's promises feel overbearing when you're going through a tough time. Let's look at Psalm 8, a beautiful poem about how amazing it is that the Almighty God would think about us little old humans. When I look at your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars that you have established, what are human beings that you are mindful of them? Mortals that you spend time on them. Now Job thinks God is punishing him for something trivial. And he keeps saying, why is my sin such a big deal to God? So naturally he thinks about Psalm 8 and about this all-powerful God who thinks about us little humans. Like Alice's parody song, Job sings the song of Psalm 8 with a couple of little changes. Leave me alone! My days are just a breath! What are human beings that you make so much of them and that you're constantly paying attention to them? And you spend time on them every single morning and test them every single second. The moral lesson is the same. Almighty God thinks about us little old humans. But Job's parody points out that it can be read with a sinister motive when you're frustrated. What Job does here is very important for understanding this book. Job points out that it doesn't always help to quote Bible verses in someone's face. Each situation is unique, and you don't always need to find a moral lesson in the chaos. Sometimes you just need to say how you feel. Now, Job didn't get everything right about God. God was not punishing him at all. But Job said what's on his mind, and in the end, God blessed him for speaking honestly. Alice and Job both write parodies of famous songs to make fun of people who are overly anxious to find one-size-fits-all moral lessons to every unique situation. Both books show that pedantic moral lessons can be overbearing sometimes, and each situation is unique. Sometimes it's more important to be honest about how confusing the chaos can be. Thank you so much for watching this. I'm Ryan M. Armstrong. I'm trying to grow the channel and justify the time commitment, so please like and subscribe and comment with your favorite parody.